All right, peeps, welcome to the Culture and People cast. Today we have Steve Farber. Steve, thank you for being on the cast.
It's my pleasure.
Awesome. In a few sentences, would you tell us who you are and what you do?
I will not. Oh, okay. That was the wrong answer. Sorry. The first question, I got it wrong already. I'm Steve Farber. I'm the founder of the Extreme Leadership Institute, the author of The Radical Leap, The Radical Edge, Greater Than Yourself. Love is Just Damn Good Business is the most recent book. And I'm in the field of leadership development, primarily focused on business. So my work is about helping people to create cultures that customers love doing business with and people love working in.
That's music to my ears. That's like my hope that people would own and operationalize their culture for both humanity and business results. I don't think people can realize you can do both.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, not only can you do both, but you should. So the way I look at it is we tend to look at personal joy and meaning, success in business, and making a difference in the world as a choice, or even as mutually exclusive ideas. You have to choose over the other. And I believe our ideal scenario is to amplify personal joy and meaning, create more wealth and prosperity, and change the world for the better all at the same time. So that's what I think our challenge as human beings ought to be.
I love that. And is that your favorite part of doing this work? Or is there another, like if you had to narrow down, like, this is what I really love about this work?
Yeah, I love. It's going to sound like a cliche because everybody who does this work is going to say something similar. I love the seeing the impact of my work on the quality of people's lives.
Mm.
And life, of course, is not. It's not that there's business and there's personal life, or as we're fond of saying, there's business and there's life. Business, or that phrase, business and then life.
Mm.
That makes me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no. If life is not business, it's if work is not life, then what is it?
Mm.
Death, right? So this is work and life. So life, of course, for me, a big part of that is how we apply ourselves in a business context. But the same principles apply in our personal relationships at home as well.
Agreed. And it's so blended. And I think if anything good, and there are lots of good things that we can make out of 2020, but that's one of my hopes, is that people will see that there is no work and life balance. It's the integration of that, of the whole self, right? That'll really count and make a difference, not only personally, but professionally.
Sure. Like, for example, when you have work to do
Mm.
in running your business and you wake up in the morning and you have twin fourth graders who need to go to school from home and handling that. Who does that sound like, perhaps?
Right.
Yeah. So this whole idea of a delineation between work and personal life, it's been shattered for most of us. And I agree. I think in large part that's a good thing. It forces us to be more disciplined in some ways and more conscientious about where we're spending our time and how we're doing it. But for the most part, from what I'm seeing, people are being very productive and very creative and enjoying the connection with their families. And in many circumstances, it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But I think there's good to be gained from it.
Agreed, Steve. And I think, I look at people, and maybe one of the cautionary tales or warnings that I give is that don't overdo it, right? Because a lot of companies who weren't already remote got thrown into remote work and we're very scrappy about it. So pat ourselves on the back. Good for us. We did it. But now we need to move towards sustainability, right? And sustainability means not having 10 hours of Zoom calls and those other things. So talk to me about like just overall engagement of talent in these workforces, right? I'm hearing from leaders. They think it's a challenge. What are your thoughts?
Sure. You mean now more than ever?
I think so.
Yeah. So this is a phrase that I'm hearing now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Phrase now more than ever. So I'm hearing things like now more than ever, in order to keep people engaged, now more than ever, connection is important. Now more than ever, support is important. Now more than ever, love is important. Now more than ever, spending time together is important. And, of course, I hear that after doing this work in some form or another for 30 years. And my response is, that's always been true. There's nothing new in that. So in a sense, it's now more than ever, but it's always been as important as it is now. All these connection and relationship and human to human elements of the way that we work. It's just that the circumstances are making it more obvious for people. And I think I'm a perpetual optimist. So my bias is to think that that's going to serve us all well and in the aftermath, in the post-pandemic world, which, by the way, let's just be clear, we will have that.
Yeah.
There is the other end of this.
Right.
We just
Agreed.
have to remind ourselves that this is not the new eternal that we're dealing with here.
No, we will get out of the scrappy and into the sustainable and develop whatever those new practices and hopes are, which I'm very excited about. So, Steve, having done this work for so long, I'm curious, like, let's get very tactical for the person who's listening, whether they're a founder or a leader or an employee that says, I do want to advance my culture. I want to get better at my people practices. What could they operationalize or put into practice tomorrow?
Yeah. So I think it starts with asking the right questions.
Mm.
Actually, if I'm being really technical, it starts with your willingness to ask the right questions. So there's an internal preparation, and the question fundamentally is, what do you need? What do you want from us? You, employee, what do you want from us, company? What do you want from me, leader? You pick the context, and you can ask the question any number of ways. For example, there's a company that I talk about a lot. I've written about them a lot. They're a case study in Love is Just Damn Good Business. And it's a company called Trailer Bridge in Jacksonville, Florida. And it's an amazing turnaround story, culture turnaround story. And one of the things that they have done from the beginning of coming out of bankruptcy to becoming a best place to work organization was Mitch Luciano, who's the president and CEO. He went to his folks and he asked them, what do you want from this company? What do you need from us? Which was a startling question, because up until that point, the main question people had was, how can I get the hell out of here?
Mm-hmm.
How can I find another job because I hate this place, right? So he just flipped it around. What do you need from us? And the category of answers that they got were really interesting. Many of the things they heard were values-oriented sorts of things. We want this kind of an environment. We want a place of integrity and trust and relationship and fun. But then they also got tangible things like, we want an ice maker in the break room. and they had lists of things, and they went through them, and some things they decided not to do. Like, for example, they thought that beer pong Friday was probably not a good idea. But Mitch personally ordered the ice machine because he said, sure, and then nobody ordered it. So the CEO ordered the ice machine, and it became part of their folklore, right? It was like, here is an example of that. I mean it. Is my, his credibility. I ask these questions because we want to fulfill them for you. So I think right now is a really important time to ask that, again, now more than ever, meaning always. But for Trailer Bridge, one of the things they found when they asked the question in the pandemic time was, what do you need from us? So my kids are at home. I'm working at home. My kids are at home, and my kid doesn't have a laptop, and the school's not giving them out. So what do you think Trailer Bridge did?
Wow. They
bought laptops for the kids who needed them and their families. So there's never a bad time to ask that question.
That reminds me, is it Bill O'Reilly that was Jim Collins' mentor? And he always went with that, like, never pass up an urge to be generous. Right? Like, good for that CEO to just do that and lead with that. I love that. That makes me so happy. So, Steve, I have two quick questions for the end. One is the shout out. So who else is doing some really good work in the culture and people space that you would want to either shout out or maybe even as a possible guest?
Yeah. So I'm going to say Mitch.
Yeah.
Mitch Luciano, president and CEO of Trailer Bridge. He's a very interesting leader in that he's very humble, which is something that, of course, we see across the board of great leaders. So, if you ask him, well, what did you do to turn Trailer Bridge around? His answer, of course, is it was us. And I get that. But the fact of the matter is that he at least got the ball rolling and kept up the persistence over time. It's been years now. I mean, they are experiencing 2020. They had a great year.
Good.
And they're a shipping and logistics company, right? Not a particularly sexy business. It's not like they're Zoom, whose business blew up because everybody's using Zoom.
Mhm.
But there's something about their culture that was in place, so that when they had this challenge, they're able to rise to the occasion. But they emerged from bankruptcy, burned through 4 CEOs in 2 years.
Mhm.
Mitch took the helm a number of years ago, and now the last few years they've had a couple of years where their revenue exceeded the previous 25 years of the company combined. And he will
Nice.
tell you it's because they created this culture where people love coming to work. They love working with their peers. They love their customers. And I'm not using the word love frivolously. I mean,
Mm.
that is their conscious intent, is to create that kind of environment. So he's, it makes him blush when I say this, but I hold him up as one of the great examples of extreme leadership nowadays.
Yeah. Well, you make me want to meet him regardless
Well,
of the work that they're doing. I
well,
love that they're tying that EX and that CX so connected. So, and I don't know how you're going to do this, but because you're so well connected and you're well read,
yeah.
what are some of your favorite resources, books, podcasts, anything that you would recommend for people to advance their thinking around culture and people?
Okay, there's a couple things. I'm going to give you 2 books,
Okay.
and a quick story behind one of them. So one book is this one. It's called Why They Buy.
Okay.
It's by Sherry Tree, like in branches and leaves.
Okay.
And she's the developer of a bank profiling system called Bank, which is like a personality type, similar to DISC but different in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And I just love her approach to using the understanding of different types to create the right kind of culture, to create the right kind of relationships, not just to sell better, which is primarily what this tool was developed for. And then the other is all the work by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner. So their most famous book, of course, is The Leadership Challenge, which is now in like its, 605th edition or something like that. I may be exaggerating. But they've been
You're aging them. I'm sure they'll really appreciate that.
That's right. They're very little, very wrinkly old people. They've been around for 700 years. They're the most significant body of research on leadership on the planet, in my opinion. And not just in my opinion. I think I could probably back that up. But they have a new book that either just came out or is just coming out. Here's what it's called: Everyday People, Extraordinary Leadership. And it deals with the same model of leadership, the 5 practices of exemplary leaders. But it's a shorter book. It's really geared more towards people at all levels. So option number 1, Leadership Challenge, is like kind of reading the Bible of the leadership research. And this new book, I think, is a really nice way to extract some great meaning from it in a shorter format.
All right. Those are great resources. We will link those in the show notes and the comments below for anybody who's interested. But Steve, you are a delight. I'm very honored that you spent time with us today. And it's a pleasure to have gotten to know you. And I hope we stay in touch. But I really appreciate you being a guest on the show today.
Thank you, Anna. It's my pleasure. It was just a lot of fun.
Of course. Peace and progress to everybody.